Seniors, I owe y'all an apology. I'm looking all kind of queer today. I tried to read the end of, I did read the end of 33, and I read, and it just poof, disappeared. Just gone. Nowhere I could find that. It just stopped on me, which happens sometimes, although I had it on airplane mode. It's a mystery. So then I just said, well, when I started to read the first part of 34, I said, there wasn't all that much that you missed at the end of 30 from where I stopped last time in 33. Joe's journal to the end, and so I just kind of summarized it. And then I read the beginning of 34. Same thing. So after that, I was just exasperated yesterday. I couldn't do it again. So I am so sorry. So I'm going to try. I know you're seeing this after the fact, but to summarize the rest of 33, basically the most important thing you need to know is that she was checking out this professor, Buyer. And she was peeking at him. He caught her peeking at him with the kids and stuff. And she's just, you can tell she's thinking it's endearing the way he is with kids. And he caught her peeking at him. And I think he's been kind of looking at her. Although it didn't really say that, I don't think. But then that took us to chapter 34, which is called Friend. So, totally read about half that chapter, and then it was gone. I'm going to try again. So here we are at Friend 34. Though very happy in the social atmosphere about her and very busy with the daily work that earned her bread and made it sweeter for the effort, Jo still found time for literary labors. The purpose which now took possession of her was a natural one to a poor and ambitious girl, but the means she took to gain her end were not the best. She saw that money conferred power. Money and power, therefore, she resolved to have, not to be used for herself alone, but for those whom she loved more than self. The dream of filling home with comforts, giving Beth everything she wanted, from strawberries in winter to an organ in her bedroom, going abroad herself and always having more than enough, so that she might indulge in the luxury of charity, and had been for years Joe's most cherished castle in the air. So her dream. The prize story experience had seemed to open a way which might, after long traveling and much uphill work, lead to this delightful chateau in French, Espagne, Espagne. But the novel disaster quenched her courage for a time. For public opinion is a giant which has frightened stouter-hearted Jacks on bigger beanstalks than hers. Like that immortal hero, she reposed a while after the first attempt, which resulted in a tumble. And the least lovely of the giant's treasures, if I remember rightly. But the up again and take another spirit was as strong in Joe as in Jack, so she scrambled up on the shady side this time and got more booty. Watch out, treasures. But nearly left behind her what was far more precious than the money bags. She took to writing sensational stories, for in those dark ages even all perfect America read rubbish. She told no one but concocted a thrilling tale and boldly carried it herself to Mr. Dashwood, editor of the weekly Volcano. She had never read Sartor Resartus, but she had a That sounds Latin. But she had a womanly instinct that clothes possess an influence more powerful over many than the worth of character or the magic of manners. So she dressed herself at her best and, trying to persuade herself that she was neither excited nor nervous, bravely climbed bravely climbed 2 pairs of dark and dirty stairs to find herself in a disorderly room, a cloud of cigar smoke, in the presence of 3 gentlemen sitting with their heels higher than their hats, which articles of dress none of them took the trouble to remove on her appearance. Somewhat daunted by this reception, Jo hesitated on the threshold, murmuring in much embarrassment, "Excuse me, I was looking for the weekly volcano office. I wish to see Mr. Dashwood." Down went the highest pair of boots, up rose the smokiest gentleman, and carefully cherishing his cigar between his fingers, he advanced with a nod and a countenance expressive of nothing but sleep. Feeling that she must get through with the matter somehow, Jo produced her manuscript, and blushing redder and redder with each sentence, blundered out fragments of the little speech carefully prepared for the occasion. "A friend of mine desired me to offer a story just as an experiment." And there's like little dashes, so these are just bits and pieces. "Would like your opinion. Be glad to write more if this suits." While she blushed and blundered, Mr. Dashwood had taken the manuscript and was turning over the leaves with a pair of rather dirty fingers, and casting critical glances up and down the neat pages. Not a first attempt, I take it, observing that the pages were numbered, covered only on one side, and not tied up with a ribbon, sure sign of a novice. "No, sir, she has had some experience and got a prize for a tale in the Blarney Stone Banner." "Oh, did she?" And I'm glad she did. I'm surprised she didn't say he, because back in those days, I don't think women had such luck at such. "Oh, did she?" And Mr. Dashwood gave Jo a quick look which seemed to take note of everything she had on, from the bow in her bonnet to the buttons on her boots. "Well, you can leave it if you like. We've more of this sort of thing on hand than we know what to do with at present, but I'll run my eye over it and give you an answer next week." Now, Jo did not like to leave it, for Mr. Dashwood didn't suit her at all, but under the circumstances there was nothing for her to do but bow and walk away, looking particularly tall and dignified, as she was apt to do when nettled or abashed. Just then she was both, for it was perfectly evident from the knowing glances exchanged among the gentlemen that her little fiction of "my friend" was considered a good joke, and a launch produced by some inaudible remark of the editor as she closed the door completed her discomfiture. Half resolving never to return, she went home and worked off her irritation by stitching pinafores vigorously, and in an hour or two was cool enough to laugh over the scene and long for next week. When she went again, Mr. Dashwood was alone, whereat she rejoiced. Mr. Dashwood was much wider awake than before, which was agreeable, and Mr. Dashwood was not too deeply absorbed in a cigar to remember his manners, so the second interview was much more comfortable than the first. "We'll take this," editors never say "I," "if you don't object to a few alterations. It's too long, but omitting the passages I've marked will make it just the right length," he said in a businesslike tone. Jo hardly knew her own MS manuscript again, so crumpled and underscored were its pages and paragraphs, but feeling, as a tender parent might on being asked to cut off her baby's legs in order to fit it into a cradle, she looked at all the marked passages and was surprised to find that all the moral reflections which she had carefully put in as ballast for much romance had been stricken out. "But, sir, I thought every story should have some sort of a moral. So I took care," she forgot her friend, "to have a few of the sinners repent." Mr. Dashwood's editorial gravity relaxed into a smile, for Jo had forgotten her friend and spoken as only an author could. People want to be amused, not preached at, you know. Morals don't sell nowadays, which is not quite a correct statement, by the way. You think it would do with these alterations then? Yes, it's a new plot and pretty well worked up, language good and so on, was Mr. Dashwood's affable reply. That is what? Compensation, began Jo, not exactly knowing how to express herself. Oh, yes, well, we give from 25 to 30 for things of this sort. Pay when it comes out, returned Mr. Dashwood, as if that point had escaped him. Such trifles often do escape the editorial mind, it is said. Very well, you can have it, said Jo, handing back the story with a satisfied air, for after $1 a column work, even 25 seemed good pay. Shall I tell my friend, she's back to my friend, that you will take another if she has one better than this? Asked Jo, unconscious of her little slip of the tongue and emboldened by her success. Well, we'll look at it. I can't promise to take it. Tell her to make it short and spicy and never mind the moral. What name would your friend like to put to it? In a careless tone. None at all, if you please. She doesn't wish her name to appear and has no nom de plume, said Jo, blushing in spite of herself. Just as she likes, of course. The tale will be out next week. Will you call for your money, or shall I send it? Asked Mr. Dashwood, who felt a natural desire to know who his new contributor might be. I'll call, good morning, sir. As she departed, Mr. Dashwood put up his feet with the graceful remark, poor and proud as usual, but she'll do. Following Mr. Dashwood's directions and making Mrs. Northberry her model, Jo rashly took a plunge into the frothy sea of sensational literature, but thanks to the life-preserver thrown her by a friend, she came up again, not much the worse for her ducking. Like most scribblers, she went abroad for her characters and scenery, and banditti, counts, gypsies, nuns, and duchesses appeared upon her stage and played their parts with as much accuracy and spirit as could be expected. Her readers were not particular about such trifles as grammar, punctuation, and probability, and Mr. Dashwood graciously permitted her to fill his columns at the lowest prices, not thinking it necessary to tell her that the real cause of his hospitality was the fact that one of his hacks, on being offered higher wages, had basically left him in the lurch. She soon became interested in her work, for her emaciated purse grew stout, and the little hoard she was making to take Beth to the mountains next summer grew, slowly but surely, as the weeks passed. One thing disturbed her satisfaction, but then that she did not tell them at home. She had a feeling that father and mother would not approve, and preferred to have her own way first and beg pardon after. It was easy to keep her secret, for no name appeared with her stories. Mr. Dashwood had, of course, found it out very soon, but promised to be dumb, and for a wonder kept his word. She thought it would do her no harm, for she sincerely meant to write nothing of which she should be ashamed, and quieted all pricks of conscience by anticipations of the happy minute when she should show her earnings and laugh over her well-kept secret. But Mr. Dashwood rejected any but thrilling tales, and as thrills could not be produced except by harrowing up the souls of the readers, history and romance, land and sea, science and art, police records, and lunatic asylums had to be ransacked for the purpose. Jo soon found that her innocent experience had given her but few glimpses of the tragic world which underlies society, so regarding it in a business-like, she set about supplying her deficiencies with characteristic energy. I'm almost afraid to read any more. I must stop here. And I'm sorry that that's not a whole lot, but I don't want the same thing to happen. Okay, so that's a little teeny-weeny synopsis, summary, whatever, of 33, which wasn't much. And the beginning of 34. But like I said, I just don't want it to cut off on me and disappear. So I'm going to err on the side of safety. See you all. Hope to see you at live at 5. Hope this goes up before then. It's only not even 11 this morning. But be sweet. Don't be ugly. See you soon.